11 Lizard Brain Radio. Every other Sunday kind of lined up that it was Easter Sunday for this particular episode. And I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get a guest on for an interview. So I asked Teresa if she would talk to me, mostly with that face that everybody can see on the live stream. I conned her into talking to me as my guest because she's the other half of Coal Black Exotics. And how we do shows is not the same. We don't teach the same way. We don't uh, interact with kids in the same way. And then because she started out with very little reptile experience, her reptile experience now has morphed into she is the person who interacts with our big lizards much more. She's interacted with our crocodilians a lot more. And then I have kind of been the person who interacts with the snakes. And then with Indy and the invertebrates, that's more of a me. And then everybody kind of helps with the turtles and stuff because they're a ton of work and stuff with water just always needs cleaned. But we both use everything for shows. It's just that kind of how we started interacting with animals and how we interact with our collection. She ended up much more on the lizard side. And then something that in the Friends of Scales Reptile Rescue and in Coal Black Exotics in general that we're kind of known for is we build a bunch of our own enclosures and we do a lot of work for that kind of stuff. And a big part of that is Teresa. So I thought it'd be cool to have her on and let you guys kind of ask her questions and hear her talk about it as opposed to the way I talk about it because I'm much more of a reptile nerd, whereas she's much more of an educating kids nerd. She just uses reptiles to do it. So I'm going to treat it the same way I treat the other episodes and kind of take us through the collection, but from your perspective as far as lizards go and what do you use to teach and I know the kind of lizards you like specifically, but tell everybody else the kinds of lizards that you like.
Do you want me to start with the kinds of lizards that I like?
Sure.
I prefer big cat-like lizards, I guess. Yeah, I do really enjoy the large lizards. I like Penn, our Argus monitor. It came easy to me because I know you're not supposed to, but I tend to treat them kind of like kids or toddlers. So, and it works well with the bigger guys. Little guys are harder because they run, but the bigger guys, it's easier that way because you can just kind of pick them up like you do a toddler and scold them. You're not really supposed to, but I do.
But it works. I mean, I think you are.
It's weird to say.
You are verbally to you when I watch.
I'm just talking to myself.
Yeah, you're just talking, but that makes you more comfortable. What
Yes.
you're actually doing is like positive and negative reinforcement.
Yes.
While you're talking, you move them. Like, if the iguanas are trying to climb or, the monitors are walking away or whatever, like, you're doing all the physical parts. You're just talking as you do it.
Well, and like you said, I'm not a hobbyist that came into this on that side. Like I've never been until we started doing shows. Really, I was never like, it wasn't my life goal to have a lot of lizards and snakes.
Which is funny.
So as I'm talking through
I bought a bumper sticker to put on the passenger side of our van.
For me,
for Teresa, that says "He who dies with the most lizards wins." And then I took a Sharpie and put a little divot and made it she.
Worn off. I need
it got rained
I need
on,
to just
so
buy an S sticker, stick it on there.
Yes, we should
have one of our people cricket it out.
Yes. You know who you are. You always listen to our stuff, cricket person.
I need an S about this big, an inch or two tall. So personally, I like larger lizards. The little ones unnerve me a little bit, but I do prefer Argus monitors. Even as small as a tegu. Tegu is really, once it gets smaller than a tegu, I'll handle it and we'll do shows with it, and I don't mind. And I know a plethora of information, but I do prefer tegu or bigger, I guess. I'm a little bit unnerved with being that I'm not a seasoned handler, I guess. Croc monitors. I haven't dealt with them a lot, so they're one of the bigger ones. They intimidate me a little bit. I think it would quickly change.
Happy Easter to you guys too.
So you can tell we're in Easter outfits.
Oh yeah, I'm actually wearing a Harry Potter button down, so it's not. I mean, it's Easter outfits.
It matched my Easter outfit.
And by matched her Easter outfit, she means she picked this shirt out when we saw it at Hot Topic, and then she said I should wear it today.
Yes.
And so I did.
But anyways,
intimidated by croc monitors.
I'm a little bit intimidated.
You should be. They're a large, dangerous
huge.
lizard.
But I do.
So for people who are going to hear this in the
baby.
podcast episode, and for folks who are watching right now, Teresa and I obviously are one half of the Reptile Room Confessions podcast as well, and we talk about this all the time. Where in that group of four, Teresa is considered like the new person. And
such a newbie.
She talks about herself now as though, oh, I'm not a real seasoned handler, so I'm worried about a croc monitor. Okay, well, everyone should have concern about croc monitors. They're probably one of the more dangerous lizards on the planet.
But I will.
And yeah, I dearly want to see her hold one like that. And
the nails.
We got to do some claw trimming. And for a person who talks about she's not seasoned, she's been doing this for 10 years. So
I have.
Yeah, exactly. We always do that where it's like, oh yeah, remember when we had this? And it was like, that was 5 years ago. And then, seasoning for how long you've been doing stuff is a relative term if you're hanging out with people who've been doing it for 25 and 30 years. That, Ryan and I are both 20 years plus. And then it's like, oh yeah, Teresa's the new person. And it's like, well, she's at a decade talking about handling gigantic, dangerous stuff. Like there's a little bit of nuance to whether or not you're a new quote unquote person. Happy Easter, Timmy.
So, I mean, I have experience, I guess, with big lizards because I have, Penn, we've had, and before Penn, we had,
we've had several. I mean,
we didn't have the Argus, but before Penn, we've had
really big savannas.
It wasn't the Savannah. It was a monitor, but it wasn't a Savannah. And I can't think of what it was. It was in the dining room. In the corner.
Oh, we had a Dumarils for quite a while.
Yes. And before that one was kind of a fan-ish of me, but more so of you.
That's just because that was the taller thing to climb on.
That one peed on me.
Well, yeah, that one definitely marked you. People don't give Dumarils monitors enough credit. Dumarils monitors, for one thing, can get pretty big. Everybody always wants babies that have the cute red heads and like all the cool colors. And then so a Dumarils monitor that we're talking about are a black roughneck or a brown roughneck. Those are the two different species that we're talking about. Dumarils are the brown roughnecks. They are honestly, my brother's poolside in Arizona. Thanks for that, dude. It was 80
here
today,
so I mean, you could have been poolside here. It would be cold water.
We went and walked the beach at the area club on the ski beach. So the kids got in the cold water. We did not. Teresa tried it. It was far too cold. No, like people don't think about a lot of the Indonesian monitors, like Dumarils, stuff in the Indicus complex, mangroves, blue tails. They can get like fairly good sized. Like our Dumarils monitor,
our Dumarils was bigger than our adult female Argus.
Oh yeah, by far. And like we
not
have
quite as big as our male. But
we have an Asian water monitor right now that's probably 2 years old. And I mean, obviously the water monitor is not done growing, but like that, he's 2 or 3. A juvenile,
he was 2, so
getting toward sexually mature male water monitor was very similar in size to the adult Dumarils that we had.
Yep.
And people also don't think about a lot of those things, especially like Dumarils. They are like ditch side, stream side animals. So that thing swam and climbed and liked to eat crawdads and all kinds of stuff. Loved the bathtub.
We actually, when we built his enclosure,
What's up, Clint?
We took a bird enclosure. Was that a bird enclosure?
No, that was a small mammal enclosure, but it was arboreal.
We took the bottom out. This one loved to swim, so we took the bottom of that out, took a big water trough, made a base for it that it was dry on, like put like a piece of wood over the top of the water trough. So it was dry on that side so he can get up and land. And then he had places to climb up in the enclosure. But that whole water trough underneath is full of water, and he just get and spin and swim and swim in circles.
Well, and
so
like,
he loved
if
the
you
water.
threw stuff down there, he would literally bomb
Out
into
of the top to
Like, it
jump
was-
into the water. It was awesome.
It was probably 40 gallons down
Yeah,
there.
it was huge.
And he would literally, I mean, all 30 inches of him, he would just bomb down into that thing. But yeah,
that was one of our first
that was
questionable builds.
yeah, that
it
was
worked.
a little sketchy.
It worked.
But it was a little sketchy.
There's a picture somewhere on Facebook of Bill sitting in the middle of the enclosure with just his head sticking up.
Yeah, I think I might have a huge beer sign in my hand.
Yes.
Because it's in our dining room. Or it was at the time. It is not now. Happy Easter, Alex. Thanks for checking in, dude.
I'm surprised there's this many people on.
It's after all the Easter stuff. Everybody's already gotten all their candy and food and church and whatnot out of the way.
Are people wanting to watch us argue? Like a spousal argument on Facebook
No,
Live?
now's our chance to rip on Ryan and Erica because they're not here in the other podcast. We're not the couple that argues. No, that's not true. So
We're
no,
perfect.
anyway.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Your current Tegu project that is 3 feet away from us in our bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
How is that going? I'm gonna
I
turn my
have-
laptop while you tell people.
I have not held that tegu yet. So this is we have a golden tegu. I don't know why. I feel like I need to have a tegu herd. I don't like cats. And I feel at some point in my life, once my kids leave, I need something. So I've decided that I'm going to have a herd of tegus. I don't think it was the best idea, but I really I'm stuck
idea.
on it. But we have the blue, we have 2 black and whites, we have 2 Chinoan. Is that what the?
So we have a total of 4 black and whites.
Yeah.
The one
Well, we
is
think.
well, yeah, we'll see. One is Chicoan for sure. 2 are Argentine. All of these are adoption
Yeah,
type
so
animals.
it's
So
literally just, hey, that one's not as big, and this
Yeah.
one's kind of got a little bit more brown in it.
the one male is pretty geriatric.
Yeah.
The one female, she's actually a little bit older,
And
but
we thought she was older,
she's okay.
but she's doing pretty good. And she's got health issues.
yeah, she
But
had
she is amazing.
MBD at one point in her life.
It's another
She was
cradle like a baby all the time during
yeah,
shows.
she was adopted out of a dude's basement that liked to make himself scrambled eggs and make them scrambled eggs kind of deal. So
Potentially macaroni and cheese and hot dogs.
very 1970s
Probably
way
not
of
good
keeping
things.
tegus. The plus side is that when you typically when those type of animals come into the rescue situation, they're super cool. Like that animal is super cool with people. She has no problems. But it's taken a little bit to get her diet. She doesn't want to eat what she's supposed to. She wants to eat garbage. So that is taking a little bit of work. And then we have the one that's Chocoan for sure. And the other one that historically people would have called Colombian as a black and white. It's just a plain old black and white tegu. He's just kind of young, but he has a lot more speckling as opposed to the nicer pattern that you see with the Argentines. And then of course the Chicoan has way more white, much prettier. And then like kind of the more slanted face that you think of for Chicoans. And then Teresa has Ethel, her blue.
Who is the blue that if you have followed us or looked at anything for us, there is a video of me opening on my anniversary a couple of years ago.
2.
Yeah,
Right?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Who it got, when I got her, she's maybe body length less than a foot. And now she's probably 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
She's growing pretty good. She
and
slept most of the winter.
Yeah, she brumated. Is kind of out trying to start to bask and wake up.
Yeah, she came out of her box this week, which was not expected because I had to wake her up to even offer food the other day, which I think she took 1 piece and then went back to sleep. So those are the 5 that are at the shop. And we have had a golden, and if any of you have any knowledge of tegus, Goldens are notorious jerks. They're just, they run. You can actually handle them. We learned with the last one, you can handle them if you tire them out. Just let them run, kind of block all exits.
So for you guys that heard me talking before with Teresa's idea, this is where I got the idea that the gold tegus have been broken down into a complex now of 4 species, and that paper just came out. I am convinced. So teiids as a group also cover a bunch of swifts and like fence type lizards. I am convinced that gold tegus are like the bridge between swifts type lizards and tegus, because especially as babies, and tegu babies a little bit, they have the big long back toes, they're skinny, and they run like their hair's on fire.
Yeah.
And
Our original golden almost wouldn't touch the ground with her front feet when she would run. She just booked it. And we would just let her run all over the place. But other than that, she was not handleable. Even when we would get her completely exhausted, by the time we went to pick her up, she was chewing on one of our fingers as we were handling her. Because when we got her, I was maybe 2 years into doing shows, and I saw a tegu and thought, oh, we can have another tegu. Not even associating goldens with not getting very big. And didn't really handle her, didn't expose her to a whole lot. She had an enclosure in the corner of the living room, but not really anything. Like, the kids were loud, but it was just noise. Well, we have decided that we're going to try again with a golden. And this one we have straight up exposed to what looks like a human, but it's not a human. It is a head to practice hairstyling on that got friend that we have sitting beside this tegu so that she gets used to being exposed to people. We're going to try it. I haven't gotten to handle her very much. We'll see. She's doing pretty good. She comes out for food and we, feed her and water her, and she doesn't run anymore quite as much as she did. We have a pretty deep substrate and a hide for her, so she buries herself pretty hardcore. But
so for reference, this particular tegu started out, oh, that was probably loud, sorry. This particular tegu started out maybe a little bit bigger than a leopard gecko.
Yeah,
like
she was young.
The smallest golden I've ever seen. So that was why we made the decision. Like, if you're going to try, we're going to start out as young as we can, get that exposure. Kind of the same idea where, Nerd and folks like that are having a lot of success with water monitors. Obviously, totally different species, but the same concept of, she does have a hide, so she can hide if she chooses to, but the rest of the enclosure is really open.
Yep.
If she's out, she's going to be out, and she's going to see us and see the head, and there's a lot of exposure. And so you're just trying to get them over the hump of the stress of that exposure. And then starting young enough that, obviously almost all of them are going to be wild caught and things like that. And so if you tried that with a wild caught older individual, that stress of exposure, could kill the thing. Stress is cumulative, especially in reptiles. It could be adding on to other issues. So we thought, starting as young as we can, your exposure to human beings, you're going to have a little bit of stress. But if you want to be able to interact with those animals and use them in the way that we do for education, that stress just kind of has to happen, and you just have to do it in the kind of the best way that you can. And then watching Teresa treat the other one like a swift, where it ran and ran and ran, kind of would sit on us and chill out after that, but she still didn't want her face touched. And that was when she would get snappy. She didn't want anything to do with her face. We thought with this one, start out very, very small. You still get the running and things like that. But when you're really little, now it can use us as the jungle gym as opposed to having to run around the shop. Because the gold that Teresa was talking about was probably a little under 2 feet. And so, it was, a bearded dragon full on running across the shop, like that size of animal.
And I think we got the original gold, probably at the size this one is now. And we've had this one. Did we get this at the beginning of last year?
We got this tegu at Christmas time.
Not this year, was it?
Yes.
We've had her longer than that, haven't we? She's gotten way big.
No, she just eats a lot of bugs and crock biscuits.
Okay, she does eat. She does eat a lot of crock biscuits. I feed her a lot of crock biscuits.
Yes.
It works.
Lots
really
of
good,
things
though.
here like to eat crock biscuits and
Hey.
chicken.
Covers a lot.
Yeah.
Covers a lot. And she does get mealworms and other things like that. So if anybody's offended that we're feeding them just crock biscuits, it's not just crock biscuits. That's just an easy one when
Also,
I
it's a
don't.
tegu and could totally survive on crock biscuits. So don't argue.
Well, we do feed her other things.
Oh, no,
She gets mealworms and
yeah.
crickets and stuff like that. And I think we've fed her. We've tried a couple vegetables. She's not a fan of fruits or vegetables. So crock biscuits is pretty much our go-to. Throw one in a cup of water because she could get 2 meals out of one biscuit. So
Oh yeah, no,
yeah, she's still pretty
way
small.
too small
But
for a full crock biscuit.
so yeah, that's one of my other projects. But that and trying to handle a not nice female Argus monitor. Well,
Also
and then we also have the baby
smooth front came in.
smooth front Cayman that is not really just mine. I mean, obviously that's kind of both of ours. The kids would like to handle her a little bit more, but we've tried with regulations and things they can't. But I would like it if they could, because I think that'd make things a lot easier being able to bring her to shows if the kids could actually hold her. But
Rules.
that one rules, yeah. And that one, I don't know what you want me to say. I'm just an easy person. I just grab things and treat them like children.
Mm-hmm. Well, the big thing with the Cayman so far has just been station training.
Yeah.
And
actually
took to
she took to that really good, and getting her out. She's kind of like any of our stuff. We would get her out and she'd, head swing and try to bite us. And the last couple times she actually hasn't. So that was a lot of same thing, desensitizing her to people got her to the point where even when we do lift her up, she just sits there with her mouth open. So not too bad. The station training is good for feeding, and that will help in the long run, obviously. But my thing is definitely handling. I really wish I was more into station training. I'm definitely make things a lot easier, but I'm more into I mom everything. Oh, you want some more? Here, open your mouth.
the thing about large monitors, and as crocodilians grow,
yeah,
is a portion of it is using tools,
mm-hmm.
and you feed things on tongs and so on and so forth, and trying to mitigate getting bit and things like that. But
yeah,
for really big lizards and crocodilians up to a certain size, beyond, if the crocodilian is the same size as you or bigger, that's a different ballgame. Where you need a team and things like that. But when you're talking about animals up to like the tegu, you just got to grab them.
Yeah.
And that works with your, because people think about that,
equipment.
Oh, I hold them like a toddler, and it's like, well, you're not gonna hug a gator. Like you will hold it against your body, but you're still controlling the mouth, and
Well, and then
put it by your face and things like that. So like
learning equipment and
but like the
even
movements
with the
are the same.
Yeah.
So
for
people see you hold the tegu in the baby carrier, and it's like, oh yeah, well that works because you're holding it to your body. You control, if they feel like they're going to fall or they thrash around or something like that, you can support them. Like you can do a similar thing with a crocodilian and grip it. How hard you're gripping it and whether or not you're controlling the head and the mouth is covered and things like that. Like that changes with the potential danger of the animal that you're holding. But I don't know, like people constantly hear especially when we're doing shows, that Teresa holds things like a baby or holds things in baby carriers. And
The
like,
baby carrier actually works for tegu size animals so much because the one that I have is a sling carrier. So I have found that especially adult tegus, really weirdly, they almost don't like to be seen. They can handle things touching their tail and their back, but if they can tuck their head, they think they're hidden.
yeah, they don't mind being pet.
So I
They
have that
wanna snuggle their face
sling
in.
carrier. I tuck them into the side part, and then they literally will let me handle them. They'll let people touch them. They whatever. Now that's tegus. I do not do that with larger monitors because they actually do want to see. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that can be bad because with the bigger guys, they want to see a lot. And that means they're climbing to the highest vantage point, which typically is your head. I have been punched in the eye by a monitor too. I've had a black eye from a monitor. I'm not sure if anybody else can say that. And that time I even had a hood on, I think. I was wearing the full, a lot of time just because I have real sensitive skin and get cut and scratched and bruised real easy. I'll wear a hoodie to keep from getting a nail in the ear or something like that.
Yeah, that's the other thing. For those people who do see my wife walking around town, I do not beat my wife.
No,
She bruises easily and deals with big lizards. So
I do. It's
the scratches and bruises come naturally.
Always from, it's either dealing with big lizards or work where I, run into a shelf or something and bruise myself.
Well, that and her two most visible scars when she's in regular clothes are both from lizards.
Yeah. Yep. One an iguana and one a savanna. And only one of those was a mouth bite. The other one was a nail. I got a scratch all the way down, like from my shoulder, collarbone, all the way down my chest.
Yep. That was an adult rhinoceros iguana.
Yeah. Yep. He had long nails.
But again, that was another one of those where she wasn't wearing a hoodie at the time. Mm-hmm. And he just crawled up on her. Like, it wasn't an aggression thing. It was just your skin isn't thicker than tree bark, so too bad for you kind of thing.
Yeah, I haven't figured out how to evolve into tree bark.
Yeah. The savanna on the forearm was a legitimate.
Yeah.
He went for a walk outside, saw a clear blue sky, freaked out. We're
pretty sure had never been, because that was another rescue. He was missing all but one toe. He had a smashed up tail. We're pretty sure it had never been outside.
He was cool with people.
And he was cool. For a couple of years we had him and he was cool. We'd let him roam around inside. And we were like, you know what? Let's put him outside on the sidewalk. And we put him outside and we brought him outside and he was fine. The moment I put him down, he got twitchy and
the sidewalk
weird.
In front of our house is lined with hostas.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks kind of like a little canopy. And so he was just kind of walking around doing his own thing. And
he got to that clear sidewalk without
when
hostas.
He left that hosta canopy and there was nothing above him but like a 60-foot catalpa tree, he bellied out on the ground and was looking like, I'm not sure I'm cool with this. And Teresa did the mom thing and was like, oh, I think he's scared. We should put him away. And went to pick him up and he just whapped right on the forearm. And then she was like, oh, he is scared because he bit me.
And I set him down.
And then we wrapped him in a towel.
And took him inside.
And he just walked into his enclosure like, okay, I'm cool now. Don't do that.
Yep.
And once he had overhead cover, totally cool. Didn't care at all. But he saw that clear blue sky and was like, nope, I'm not getting messed with for bird food. And just latched on.
Yeah. I handled him. It took me a while. That was my first. That was actually our first. No, not our first big lizard. Our first big ones would have been the iguanas.
Right.
But that would have been our second big lizard, and that was my first. I think my first ever bite from anything.
Yeah.
And that was a moment where I learned it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. Like, you just got to do it. Because I think I even carried that lizard inside, even in the towel.
Yes.
I was like, nope. I
But for
learned
those
my
of you
mistake.
that are listening, that is also why. So in Illinois, you have to have special permits for certain kinds of animals. And under Coal Black Exotics, our permits are in Teresa's name.
Mhm.
And so she has an endangered species permit and she has a special use permit.
Mhm.
And so the special use permit is things like crocodilians, lace or Komodo, like big crazy monitors, or anything venomous. And
I
then
think
there's
it's just the
lace and Komodos. And
no
crocs.
croc.
Or
I
crocs
don't
and
think
Komodos, not
lace.
lace.
I was gonna
Sorry.
say it's just crocs and komodos.
And then anything venomous, and then they do differentiate between some rear fang stuff and different stuff. So there's different rules. And we have one rear fang snake that we display and do the different stuff that the state requires, and we use that for education.
Which we haven't gotten to do this year. We really need
Right,
that.
COVID's putting a damper on that.
Yeah.
But we really don't have anything venomous, and we never have. We were inspected by the state to do for the crocodilian and the boiga that we have, and they have to come and check your stuff and verify everything. And they talked to us and we're like, hey, just so you know, here are the requirements for the permit and so on and so forth. Very cool, very accommodating. It was awesome. And and the guy who inspected us told Teresa, like, oh, hey, you do a lot of stuff with big lizards. The requirement in Illinois is it's got to be a U.S. native. You can't have exotic venomous.
Yep.
And so he was like, hey, man, you can't have beaded lizards, but you could have a Gila if you did the hours and so on and so forth. Because we have insurance and we already have the enclosures and we're covered for all that stuff. And we're like, oh, yeah, cool, thanks. And then he finished the inspection. Super cool. And he left. And she was like, no. Because of the she just said with the Savannah, because she just grabs stuff. And so because like
I catch it. I'm that person that catches vomit. I can't not catch things or catch, like, kids go to fall and my heart drops. Like, I can't not try to catch an animal if something were to happen, or like cover it or baby it, or, and like I said, some people probably will give me crap for that.
We have a Boiga cyanea, which is a green-eyed cat snake.
And I don't.
It is triple locked in its own enclosure that we can just move the whole enclosure, and that enclosure is on top of our 2-tier lizard setup in the front room of the shop. So I stand on a chair to get the enclosure down to then work with the stuff in the enclosure. So like there's zero chance she's ever gonna open the door and have the snake fall out. Plus it's triple locked. Yeah. There's no chance. And that's for an animal that even our state doesn't consider like fully quote unquote venomous. It's just a rear fang, which for anybody listening who don't ever discount rear fang snakes, like they don't have to chew on you or any of that nonsense. They just open their mouth wider and bite you. Like, and you can have a major reaction to a lot of different venom from rear fang snakes. So there's your PSA on rear fang. Don't discount them.
Well, and we still don't. Even with the boiga, we handle it with hooks.
We
we don't let the kids
use tools and
as cool looking as it would be to get pictures. We don't let the kids even touch the enclosure.
But anyway, for lizards, we talked earlier about wanting to handle a croc monitor.
It'll never happen. It could. They're another thing that I am kind of but our couple am known for is enclosure building, and that's just an enclosure I don't want to build.
But it would be awesome.
It would be. They are super beautiful, and they have amazing claws.
Yeah, we have to build some legit trees. Or just get trees and put them in enclosures. Like we could build an
can
enclosure.
You imagine the weight capacity that enclosure would have to handle? And they climb, like you're putting a tree.
Yeah.
Like
not a live one. We'll cut it down.
Yeah, but the size in the enclosure would have to be massive.
Floor to ceiling in the shop. And then 16 feet wide. That would be 2 trees that are 12 feet apart with space around them. We'll just trim all the branches to meet the edges of the enclosures. We'll paint the background
I'm
look
okay.
like leaves in a forest.
The person
It'll be
we
perfect.
talked to about our crocodilian special use permit pretty much said, unless I can learn how to like stand on my head and do push-ups or something like that, he's not going to give anybody a croc monitor permit.
So go to CrossFit and then we'll get croc monitor.
I don't know if I'm going to get that permit.
You could practice with a lace. We know a guy who might be listening
Not
to this.
the same size.
We could start out with a small croc monitor so it looked like a lace monitor. There's plenty of people that wouldn't even know the difference. There are a bunch of people, not in this particular audience, but we talk about this all the time for our shows. I could bring a really pretty Nile monitor and I could bring a croc monitor that's small.
Are you looking at the camera? Do you see the look I'm giving you?
Yes. And everybody would be like, oh, cool. That's a neat lizard with yellow spots on it. And they wouldn't know the $4,000 price difference or how upset it made me that they didn't know the difference.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I am a big advocate of nobody will know the difference. So why do we need to spend that much money on an animal that we can't even do shows with?
Because they're amazing. And we could do a show with it if the show came to us and didn't touch it or stayed 10 feet away from it at all times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because those are also special
Hopefully
rules for
somebody we know has a croc monitor that can apparently stay on a leash and doesn't mind having their mouth bound with tape.
This is the era of the internet. We could not the mouth binding. That's sketchy. Because here's
so that would be folks, they would have to stay 10 feet away.
For folks that are listening about things like that, when you see people who do educational shows,
or the giant
yes,
crab.
Sarah, coconut crab is on my list.
Oh yeah,
we actually were just talking about that today with the kids. For those of you who are wondering about people that do shows, when you talk about having to bind the mouth of different things, it really honestly isn't. We rarely do it. We don't have species that require it
that's big
other than the very small caiman. And we don't do it for our monitor lizards. My thing is, I'm not a fan of it for one thing. And for another, what none of you see is when we get home, we have to take that off. That is when someone's going to get bit, and that someone is us.
Yeah.
So I'm not a fan. I understand it for the safety aspect of doing like public.
I don't think it's it's not that I'm not a fan. I would just much rather keep you 10 feet away.
Yeah. Display
if I had to have the choice, the choice is people stay 10 feet away.
Right.
Or I tape this animal's mouth up and you can touch it. And personally, I would you can look at it. You don't need to touch it.
Right.
I mean, the coolness is there. You don't need to touch it to see it.
The only caveat I would say for that is for something like a gator, where because of their skin type and their skin condition, it doesn't bother them.
Yeah.
So like that wouldn't bother me to do that to them because you're not going to hurt them taking electrical tape off or anything. Like there's no pain or anything for them.
Like a drier skin.
Yeah, monitors and stuff.
I couldn't even imagine.
I would not want to do that. I'd worry about hurting them.
And thankfully, the Argus monitor isn't umbrellaed under that, so we don't have to worry about it with the Argus.
That species isn't included in that particular legislation. And for folks who are going to listen on the podcast who aren't in the live stream, I should have said something. Our friend Sarah was talking about the giant crab. If anybody had been paying attention to reptile and invertebrate dork social media, probably about a year ago, maybe a little less, coconut crabs were imported for the first time that I'd ever heard of, and showed up on Instagram and a couple of different places. And some of the importers had them on their lists for a while. And I dearly want one. Sarah is one of our good friends, and I had been talking about it with our friend groups, telling people that I wanted one. Our daughter Indira does a bunch of invertebrates and different things like that. So
she actually asked for a crab today.
Yep, either a crab paludarium or a snail enclosure. So that might be down the road somewhere.
Yeah, not a coconut crab though.
Yeah.
No.
If I can find one, I will
No.
try.
No,
Teresa
she
says
won't
no.
fit one in her room. Don't
So-
encourage him, Sarah.
This is the same way for those who don't know. They're very expensive, and
they're huge,
Yeah.
and they have to be in
but
like
we
a
were
room.
just talking about they don't need to be in a room. They need to be in a very large enclosure. But we were just talking about how you are the person
one
who's
that
good
I
at building
saw
that.
is like a trash sitting on the side of a trash can and goes from the bottom of the trash can to the top of the trash can.
Yeah.
That's a
So if you put that in an enclosure that would fit an adult green iguana for one crab, that'd be fine.
yeah.
And then feed it coconuts.
Feed it coconuts because
That seems
those grow
reasonable.
prolifically around here.
I mean, I'm sure there's an Illinois coconut farm
I'm sure.
of some kind, organic Whole Foods coconuts, $12 a pound or something.
Sarah's gonna build you a shed.
There we go. That would work. A crab shed? Yes. Crab shed. Like a crab shack. Bill's crab shed instead of Joe's crab shack. Yes.
It's a whole lot of weirdness.
Yeah. And it would be awesome.
Implications of wrongness.
And it would be awesome. Everyone would go if it said Bill's crab shack, and they'd be super surprised / disappointed / intrigued.
I don't know. I think
they got in
anybody
there,
who
and it
saw
wasn't crab
the
to eat. It was just
3-foot
me
wide
with a 3-foot coconut crab. Like,
coconut
everybody
crab.
check it out. This can split a coconut. Do not touch it. It will hurt you.
Hopefully you aren't holding it then.
No, it's going to be on a leash. We get a medium-sized dog harness for a crab. It's going to be amazing.
I would like to see you try to put that on over his arm.
Yeah.
Because all dog harnesses go over part of their chest.
I have a wife
And
who's really good
arms.
at sewing. We're going to cut it, put it on, and sew it while he's in it. It's going to be quick.
Yeah.
Yep. Gotta be quick.
Quick. Get a furniture needle.
And we can
Couple whips.
staple it. Like, I'll hold the crab and one side of the leash. You hold the other side of the leash. We got to hold it away from the crab so we don't staple him. Staple it, and then we'll do the other side.
And then just leave it on him forever?
Yeah.
He'll shed it off when he sheds off his
He'll
excess.
molt. We'll get a bigger leash. That's how you know.
Oh.
Then
okay.
you go to Petco with the molt.
And just go one size up.
Yeah. If everybody else can bring their insane dogs, I can bring my 3-foot crab. And Sarah's going to be our videographer.
I see that. Hopefully we will make lots and lots of money on TikTok.
Other couples go to like dance class to do concerted movements together, and we'll do that to avoid being split open by a
I was going to
coconut
say
splitting claw.
to not get clamped.
Yeah, salsa dancing, avoiding a coconut crab, same thing. Because if it pinched me, it would be going in salsa. That's fair.
You don't put.
I would make an
salsa.
exception. Be one gigantic taco.
You're so
So,
anyways,
enclosure building.
enclosure building. But yeah, so that's my other thing that I do a lot of. I haven't recently, but that's kind of actually how I actually maybe got my job now. I think we were building enclosures.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of, I liked to build them. I liked to do that type of stuff. I'm a weird person I have way too many hobbies. We had too many. So we just chalked in building things to the next hobby. So I built not all of, but quite a few of the enclosures in our shop. I do a lot of the maintenance.
Well, if it isn't an enclosure that we bought, you built it.
Yes, but some of the stuff that we've altered in some way, not all of it was me. I'm trying to think. I know there's like something.
We have had
the Tegu.
We have
Ethel.
some friends who work at / run a zoo.
Yeah.
And we have been very fortunate to get some older enclosures from them.
Yeah.
And so, like,
we've tend to
modified some of those or things like that.
Either one of us will modify.
But
the
those,
initial builds are, yes.
Yeah. If it was scratch built by us, it wasn't built by us. It was probably built by Teresa, and I just carried all the stuff.
Well, in those first ones, that was because I was a stay-at-home mom and I could.
True.
But yeah. So
Also,
I like big lizards and building things.
For those of you who
crafting.
don't actually know us in person, which a bunch of the people in the chat do actually know us in person, so it's a little different if you're in the podcast. We don't do the whole gender roles thing. No. Teresa is a hardware store manager, and when I go into the hardware store, I'm usually getting stuff to cook, and
telling me, hey, can you bring such and such home? Oh, yeah, the toilet stopped working, then, or
she works on the house and fixes stuff, and then I go there for seasoning for the grill.
That might be why some of the stuff in our house is broken, because I just don't want to fix it when I get home from a hardware store.
No, and gardening. I go there for a bunch of gardening.
Yeah, because I have acquired a black thumb. So,
yes, it's very funny to see, because I look how I look, and then go in there and they're like, "Oh, are you here for like manly wood stuff?" And it's like, "No, man, I'm here for some seasoning for some chicken." It's kind of, I think it's funny.
It is pretty funny, and even in our shows, it's kind of like that, because, I mean, you pick up the big snake, but other than that, I'm the one holding the giant lizard, and
yeah, that's more based on
you
just
tend
the
to
weight.
do, but I don't hold any of those
and
spiders.
The person who was the most emotionally attached to our gigantic python would be Teresa.
Yes, that would be me. I definitely cried.
Yeah,
definitely cried with that.
Teresa, so far we have done Coal Black Exotics as a company since 2012.
Is when it was official.
When it was official.
When we made the name and the business.
So the thing that Teresa has been the most
big.
has been the most attached to and the most upset to lose was a 17.5-foot reticulated python
named Elvira. How would you not fall in love with a cuddly snake named Elvira?
Oh, I 100% agree. You are definitely on the giant stuff. And but it fits though, because you also aren't, a lot of people who, like, stereotypically their spouse is not into reptiles or into invertebrates or whatever. A lot of people try to get their spouse into things with pretty stuff, because so many reptiles, get a green tree python, get a dart frog, get a, something that your spouse or your significant other who thinks that maybe they're scary or they're slimy or they're gross. A way to help overcome that is to find something that's very beautiful,
or and that they like.
Yeah, have that be your in kind of thing. Teresa's first NARBC
snake was a brown snake.
Well, her first NARBC, I wish we had gotten the things that she wanted, because she wanted water pythons, which now, if anybody knows, are very expensive, and a lot of people don't have them.
I didn't want them to touch them.
Yeah, she didn't want to touch them, but they were brown. And she wanted
really liked just a brown
snake. So what she actually got was a Colombian rainbow boa that had very
almost no pattern.
She only had
pattern when she was sleeping.
But her thing was brown snakes. That was what she liked.
I still like.
She still likes them.
Brown snakes. There just aren't that many.
Progressed into
big
a sulcata tortoise.
Yep.
Who we've now had for. We've had him since he was 10, and he is 22. So we've had him 12 years.
12 years.
And then a gigantic retic was her next real, like, this is mine, I want to do this. And then tegus, and now our giant Argus monitor. Our giant Argus monitor, who is, like, day one, climbed up on her and marked her shirt.
That was the one, the giant Argus.
Too. Yeah. Penn did that too.
Yeah, but...
Because that's how we got him.
Got off of me and hated me for like a 6 months.
But that's how we got him used to hanging out with the kids because
No.
Teresa
So
Teresa would
I
lay on the
would fall
couch,
asleep.
and I had
It
a
wasn't
huge
like it liked me. I
I had
would fall asleep and Bill would put it on me
That's
to
not
get
true.
used to me.
I
Yeah.
had a huge tough box, and that's how I would transport. And we still have those, and that's how we transport stuff because in Illinois it has to be impact resistant
and lockable.
and lockable. So we use the tough boxes that go in the back of trucks.
Well, for certain things.
For certain stuff.
That's actually an insurance thing, actually, I think.
Yes. Yep. And then so I would put the tough box and I would turn it so it was facing the couch, and then I would open it. And if anybody knows anything about Argus monitors tripod on their tails and look over how tall grass is. That's how they find things that are going on in their environment. And Penn does it all the time.
All the time.
And so he would tripod up and he could just see out of this tough box. And then
that's actually how we acclimate him at shows.
Yep, we let him look out
because he doesn't really like car rides.
No.
So we'll open the box and I'll sit there like beside the box and he just tripods up and kind of looks around and watches people probably about 10 to 20 minutes before we'll even get him out at a show. And he just sits there. He doesn't try to climb out. That's his box. He, like, people walk up to him, he'll drop back down. It's very much his box. And I tell people that at shows, I am like, do not put your hand in there. I'll put my hand in there. And he still hisses at me when I put my hand in there. But he that is his box. Anyways, so.
But no, so we have a 2-person love seat, smaller couch. And she would lay down on the couch and then the kids would be around.
I always fall asleep.
Yeah,
anytime,
she falls asleep. Anytime she's on that couch.
I literally sit down, fall
on
asleep.
Any couch. But to get acclimated to things and do so, the kids were around, the dogs in there making noise and stuff. And that's how we got different animals acclimated to things, is our kids are our guinea pigs. Like they run around and do what kids do when they're toddlers and now teenagers. And the animals become desensitized to that, or they don't. And that's kind of how we differentiate between who would be good for shows and who would not, and so on and so forth. And so when Penn would look around, and then that's how you knew when Penn was okay, is because then he'd try to get out. Like, okay, I checked everything out. I see the kids. I see the dog. I don't really care. And our dog is cool. The dog stayed in the dining room. He doesn't care about reptiles anymore. He's lived with the sulcata tortoise forever. And so the lizard would start to climb out. Well, then that was my cue to kind of reach in there and scoop his butt and get him used to kind of doing the half a baby hold, because this is how we're going to move this big lizard, and the safer way to be underneath of them. Don't come over like a bird foot, all the things that we teach people. And then I would just shift him up onto the couch, onto Teresa, and then tell the kids to come in, and the kids would all come in, and Teresa would lay there, and Penn would just lick her and sniff her and figure out what all was going on, and then watch us while we were doing stuff in the living room, and the kids would be around making noise and whatever, just to get him used to it over and over again. And so I've got a couple of really funny pictures of Teresa like half asleep on a couch, and there's a 40-inch lizard sitting on her butt. It's really funny. But she didn't think it was funny at the time.
Well, and we did that for the first week because we had not built the enclosure yet. And then I built the enclosure for her, for at the time we were told a her. We have since found out that Penn is not a her. Penn is a definite male.
Yeah, Penn is short for Penelope.
Yeah. Called her Penelope for a long time. Built the enclosure. Once he got in that enclosure, though, he had wanted nothing to do with me for a good long time.
Yeah.
But to go back to exposure to animals and desensitizing them to human interaction, to get her over that, him over that, I knitted, took a month of knitting a stocking. Mm-hmm. I crocheted hats and all sorts of stuff, literally sitting in front of his enclosure, door open, just sitting there. He'd come out. Sometimes he'd wander around. Sometimes he'd just come out. Sometimes I'd, put my knitting stuff down to make sure Oh, they got a Penelope too.
Nice.
It's a cute lizard name. Let's just be honest. When you think of Penelope, it's not really a lizard in any form, but it fits so well. It's so cute. I love
we
it.
named a smooth fern came in Dahlia. So
We did. We did.
we have very flowery names for things that could
Yeah.
be very unflowery if they choose to.
Yeah. No, we do.
But if you see older pictures floating around on the Facebook page, that was our first facility. So in that same one, there's like I'm in a rocking chair, like gloved up, sitting with pen in my lap. You know,
Yep.
Same process. I just sat in Teresa's rocking chair and then worked through it. He climbed out on me. And then, so the way we set it up is there is like those very thick plastic industrial shelves from the hardware store, and that is his basking platform. So when we would sit in the rocking chair and turn, he could basically just walk off that basking platform onto our laps. And so we've actually done that currently. He's in the same enclosure. We just are in a new facility. And then we did that also with our rhinoceros iguana the same way. So if I sit in one of our orange chairs at our shop now, when he's on his basking platform, he could walk off that directly onto me. And it's just an easier way for them to interact with us. And it doesn't, that way you're not reaching over them.
Yeah.
And it cuts down on them having to climb up you and potentially claw, if you're wearing thinner pants or shorts or something, they can just walk off directly on you. So if you're setting up giant stuff, think about it in relation to you physically, as well as the animal's needs and parameters and things, but realize that you're then going to have to interact with that animal in the sense of getting it in and out of that giant enclosure.
Yeah. Our pen's enclosure is 4 foot tall, so we're able to get in and out of it. Not super comfortably. We send our kids in most of the time to do the cleaning and getting in and scrubbing glass and things like that. But
I mean, still,
it has even big.
It has a 12-inch litter dam, so we can sit, like you can sit the edge of your butt on the edge of the litter dam and change light bulbs and reach in. And now that Penn has a lady friend, we can get into the nest box. We can move the water bowl, and we can do all that just sitting on the edge of the litter dam because it's a 12-inch deep litter dam.
Yep.
So I mean, it makes a difference in how you set things up like that.
Definitely sturdy enough for all that.
Well, yeah.
It's a pretty decent size frame. And we built everything. And that one we built so that if we ever needed to, we could also stick another enclosure on top of it. So it's pretty sturdy. Perfect for that.
One of our friends his guy named Brad helped us with a bunch of that stuff.
Yes.
We framed so that enclosure, actually both enclosures, the Argus monitor and the rhinoceros iguana, are framed the exact same way you frame the floor of your house. And then the roof of the enclosure is framed the exact same way. And so
we can potentially put more on top.
You could just double up if you chose to, and it would still support the weight. In fact, above our rhinoceros iguana,
we have an enclosure the same size
that we split in two, and now has one side is Madagascar iguanas, which are much smaller. It's more of like a small bearded dragon size animal. And then the other size at one time had Cuban nightingales, but now we're just letting grow out for plants, and the Cuban nightingales have moved. But I mean, even the one above the rhinoceros iguana is 8 by 4 by 3, then cut in half. So you're still talking 4 by 4 by 3 for each enclosure. Yep. And then the rhinoceros iguana is also 8 by 4 by 4, and I think Penn might actually be 8 by 4 by 5. By 3. 8 by 4 by 3.
Yep. Yeah. We made those 3 inches or 3 feet deep instead of 4.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Those are not as deep.
They're not as deep.
Yeah, that's right.
Because they didn't need to be able to sit sideways.
Yeah.
And we needed the depth so that he could sit underneath the lights, because we had 2 heat lights, one in the front and one in the back, so that he could get his whole body along the end of the enclosure, so that if that side was super hot, he could get to the other side and still be.
Folks have asked us about that. If you ever see pictures of the different enclosures where we have the larger lizards, it's actually banks of lights. And so that was something that Teresa set up as well. Those are individual mini halogens. There's 3 of them. So when Teresa says 2 lights, what she actually means is it's
two
two banks of 3.
tripods.
Yeah, that she made or set all those up.
Yep.
And then our rhinoceros iguana is under 1 bank like that.
I know it's probably not, as specs for the light company, but when you look at stuff that's automotive equipment, like it's all real high heat. So we just used it's JB Weld steel stick. It's used for automotive, but it can withstand super, super, super high heat and it hardens super awesome. So we literally just JB welded the 3 together, and I forced it with some metal pieces in between them so that they're a little bit sturdier, and then hung them, and they work. We haven't had any problems, but that JB Weld, that steel, specifically the steel stick. I know there's another high heat JB Weld, but specifically that steel stick is usable on cars, which get really, really hot. So I figured it'd probably translate okay.
And then we've done the same thing for the green iguana, and the tegus only have 2 in each, but yeah, Alex, the mini halogens are sweet. Especially when you start to get something like us where we have a really large collection. Cost savings for electricity is pretty important to us. So lots of LEDs, lots of mini halogens.
Little electricity. You could focus it because it is smaller. Yeah. You could focus it and have, what is it? The microclimates. Like you could make a really good hot spot that doesn't like when you're talking floodlights and things like that you're getting that really broad heat band. You just can't get the focused heat that they don't have to sit directly under those heat lamps. They can move to the side and they'll feel that, but they can get right under it and get that super, super high heat and still be able to
use those to blast our Uromastics.
Yeah.
They love it.
But still be able to get the other side not hot, because the other side of the enclosure, well, on the Argus, that side is really warm, but even underneath the shelves isn't quite as bad. And then on the other side, 8 feet away, is significantly cooler.
Oh yeah, those lights are
versus a floodlight or something like that, where your heat just isn't quite as focused, because it's made for a lot of like horrible things, like just a heat lamp. Those are made for keeping a whole chicken coop warm. That's not made for the focused heat. So those mini halogens are awesome for that.
Brooder lamp style.
Yep.
Yeah, at this point, if we're not using radiant heat panels for the snakes, we aren't using anything but mini halogens that I can think
for
of.
heat.
For heat.
Yes.
We do use some radiant heat panels for snakes, and then we do have a hatchling rack for snakes that has heat tape on the back.
And then lizard wise, we obviously have the different UV spectrum and stuff like that for other things. And because the mini halogen
for full spectrum lighting
takes up so much less electricity, we are able to do more UV and different things because
we pretty much use coils and deep domes with the silver interior all shined up for basically everything that we use UVB on, and then we use LEDs for all of our plant lights for the different things that are planted, and then just for daylight for some stuff.
Yeah, we have a couple plant light tubes in the basement.
Yeah. Yep.
Those are really expensive.
Yes.
To light our basement, but we actually exchanged some of our fixture lights out for plant lights in our basement to grow plants over our turtles. So,
but those were gifted to us.
No, we definitely started by buying some.
Oh yeah. With the 2 current ones that we have were gifted to us.
Yeah.
So that made that decision a little easier to use the very expensive lights that someone was nice enough to just drop off. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, but we definitely our first go at trying to.
Yeah, that costs a little bit of money.
We exchanged like one of each 2 fluorescent bulb strip in our basement, like 4 or 5 of them throughout our basement.
Yeah, that was kind of expensive. It was cool.
Now our plants grow really well in the basement.
It grew a lot of plants. It was cool.
We have
but
banana grove.
it was not a cost-effective choice. It was just fun.
So back to lizards.
Yes, not banana groves. Although the two are not mutually exclusive because we have tons of plants for tons of lizards. So,
And it turns out half the bananas are edible. So
true.
the plants too.
Also, for those of you who are plant nerds and listen to this podcast, I was able to get bamboo, actual bamboo, like the rhizomes to grow my own bamboo, as well as a bunch of bamboo that we cut down from a guy's yard when we went to visit Teresa's family in Kansas. He is an avid gardener. Dude lives out in the country. And as most things go for stuff like that, he met a guy at a track meet for his grandkids. That guy was a garden nerd. They got to talking. The guy gave him 2 chunks of bamboo a couple of years ago. He planted each chunk in his yard. And when I went there to get some, each patch of bamboo that he showed me was probably 6 by 3 in a rectangle. And then the bamboo we had to break in half to put in my brother-in-law's truck bed to get it into our van.
The one piece of bamboo the kids put in our shop
awesome.
And unfolded it, and it was ceiling to floor, which has got to be. I know that I stood on a like 4 or 5 foot step ladder and could not reach the ceiling. I had to have Bill get on it. So we actually had to get a full size ladder in order to fit in our shop.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to grow 12-foot tall bamboo in my shop. It's going to be
cool. Maybe in the house, because we don't have a really tall privacy fence, so it'd be nice.
Yeah, I'll grow it anywhere it'll grow, and then we're going to chop it down and stick it in enclosures and let geckos crawl in it. Yeah. Which is what I'm going to do with the stuff that I currently have that's dried out. I'm going to try and add more hiding places so morning geckos stop eating their babies, because they're back on that program again, and I would like them to stop.
Well,
and maybe some new spaces for dart frogs to hide.
I was going to say it'd be great for any small lizard, even them, because some of them were yay big.
Oh, yeah, they were
so you mean you
big
could,
around as my thumb.
I bet you that bigger one was probably an inch and a half.
Yeah. I mean, they were huge.
They should be fun.
So
new things.
Thanks to that guy. He won't listen to this. I'm sure he's a man in his 80s in the middle of nowhere, Kansas. But he thought it was super cool that we did kids education. He was very excited by the fact that I am a younger person who is into gardening, and he thought that's not cool now. So he's glad the kids are doing that. And yeah, man, he was just like, get an axe, chop it all out. It'll grow back at my house. I don't care. And he loaded me up with a whole garbage bag full of rhizomes and half a truck bed of dried out bamboo. So it's pretty sweet. We're going to grow some cool stuff.
So be ready.
Yep.
I don't know what we were talking about before we got sidetracked.
Enclosure building.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. We really don't have anything lined up for enclosures. Lizard wise, we'll have to do something for the Savannah, but he's
still young.
He's still young,
but he's growing pretty good clip, as you would expect. He's a Savannah monitor, so
he's not. I don't know. He's growing good, but I don't think too fast, which can happen.
Well, he came to us kind of runty, beat up, as most Savannahs do.
Yeah, his tail is only about half an inch long.
Yeah. But, I mean, when you operate in the rescue space, you get kind of beat up stuff, and feed them up, supplement them, give them light and heat, and let them do the best they're going to do. He's kind of fat, eats a lot, does monitor stuff. So, I mean, that's all you can really do for him. He digs and bass and just ate some quail eggs today, so he's not doing too bad.
Whole, did not chew or swallow.
Yep, just mashed a whole egg.
Yep, swallowed the whole sucker. We watched it go down, and then looked at us like, that didn't taste good. Just ate it. I don't know what you want me to talk about now. I'm
Well,
sorry.
we are at an hour and 10, so we could probably wrap up. Is
I'm
there
boring. I'm not nearly as exciting as some of your other people, I'm sure.
that's well, most people when we wrap up uh talk about if they have any projects for breeding and whatnot, but you don't do that.
I don't. I
So
don't really like to. I can talk about that if you want me to.
we will wrap up this episode with everybody needs to go check out USARC.
Hmm.
That has become much more prevalent in reptile social media. Lots of people are talking about it. I talk about it on here, and we always talk about it on the Reptile Room Confessions podcast. We'll throw out a plug for the Reptile Room Confessions podcast. Teresa and I are one half of that podcast with Ryan and Erica McVeigh. That's pretty cool. That's more of a broad topic based thing where we talk about all sorts of different stuff and just our varying perspectives from the hobby, and kind of geared toward new people, more of a this is what's going on, and check out these different ideas, different ways to do things and look at things, as opposed to being very centric to a theme like this for lizards and things like that. And on the theme of lizards, the people at Morelia Python Radio have decided that they want to fight. So they have come out with a monitor keeping podcast, apparently. I don't know if they realize, but at one time when I started this podcast, I had said that I remember when they were talking about the podcast games where they were going to compete with the Reptile and Chill guys from the UK. And I volunteered to compete with them in Highlander style games and competitive podcasting. But at the time, they weren't.
Competitive podcasting.
Oh, yeah. At the
Is that a
time,
thing?
yes, it will be. At the time, they were not
Do
doing
I need
anything
to
with
go to
lizards,
Urban Dictionary
so
and look
it
it up?
wasn't a big deal. Now they've decided to branch into lizards, so I think some Highlander style games might need to happen at the next Carpet Fest to decide who
Highland
can.
style social distance game. Like,
No, we're gonna wear kilts and throw heavy stuff at each other or fling hammers. Yes, Alex,
there
can be only
one.
That's right. Just because people think it's cool to talk about lizards now, they want to get in on the game because they talk to Mike Stefani and he has amazing stuff. No, I'm actually super excited. I love keeping monitors when it comes to the reptile hobby collection side. I'm a monitor nerd. I love varanids of all kinds. I'm really excited that they are doing a podcast on that.
I feel like they're going to get a lot of listeners from your non-promotion here.
Yeah, I don't care. It's going to be cool, and I'm going to listen to it too. So all the different podcasts and stuff I talk about on this one, I listen to all those too. So I like being on here and talking about lizards, but just from hearing Teresa and I talk, we obviously have a super diverse collection. So I listen to a bunch of podcasts about different things, all over social media for different things. And then Teresa is not.
I don't.
A reptile social media nerd.
I don't know enough people. Like, I like to listen to
murder mysteries and crafting things.
I told you I have too many hobbies. I don't. I do. I have too many hobbies.
Okay, so it is like an hour and 13, so we'll wrap this one up. I'm glad a bunch of folks hung out with us over the Easter
You
Sunday.
should have asked me more questions. I was floundering here a couple times, people.
And we are going to keep the every 2 weeks format. I've got a bunch of folks lined up. And for those folks who are here in the live stream as opposed to the podcast, I do have some folks who have been talking to me about my idea was that I just wanted to interview folks, on the live stream was so that you guys could ask questions. They don't have to like show us anything, or that wasn't my intent. But I do have some folks that are wanting to schedule their live stream interview with me to be able to show us stuff on their end of the live stream. So I think that's going to be super cool. That wasn't my plan, but they're just offering. So I think it's going to be really neat. I actually have one guest coming up who had to reschedule because he's getting all new enclosures, has a whole refit going on and a big plan. And then we're going to get to hopefully see some of that on the live stream. So I thought that was really cool. And I'm really stoked that like that wasn't even my idea. This person offered like, oh, hey, reschedule me. I'm gonna do cool stuff on the video, so that if you guys are in the live stream, it's gonna be pretty sweet. So I'm really happy for that.
Yeah, because looking at his mug's not
Uh,
super entertaining.
Commercial Wi-Fi is very expensive, and so we don't have Wi-Fi at the facility yet.
No.
At some point, we hopefully will, and it will be awesome. But until then, you're gonna have to stare at my face and our ever-growing different things in the background as we decorate our walls. I actually just got a new sign to put on the wall because, as you guys
see
can
how
see,
bright it's gonna be.
Teresa's. Oh yeah, hopefully this doesn't blind you. Teresa's background stuff is sugar skulls, and we also like steampunk things. That
Yes.
is why the clock. And then here is mine. Oh, can we get that not to blind people?
There you go.
Beware of octopus tin sign. Because my decorating
It's going
is
to be pirates.
pirates. And I've got
Sugar skulls.
and pirates.
Skulls and pirates.
And steampunk stuff. Steampunk works for pirates
For
for
sure.
different things.
For sure.
The other thing I got is a little tiny placard that's actually off of a ship that says "Screw Room," and I think it's pretty cool.
You're not gonna be able to read that one.
I'll put it somewhere that everybody can see it. Don't worry, right there above the window, little brass placard that says "Screw Room." Don't be a pervert. It's talking about the screws that run a ship's engine. So that's how we're gonna end the podcast. All right. See you guys again in 2 weeks. Thanks for hanging out. Good night.